Greetings everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, I would like to talk about some of the miniatures out there that you can use for indie games. Okay, so I came up with this topic of indie games. I already posted my first video on it. In the first video, we discussed a lot of the indie games. I showed you some games, some rules, and so now I want to talk a little bit about the miniatures that you can use, because there's a lot of different things you can do with indie games. And as I'm doing the video, I realized that this whole topic connects into various other topics. So indie games are perfect for people with that lower experience level, because these are games that you can download. These are games that you can get for very cheap. And of course, I do recommend that if you don't know the companies involved, like Osprey Games or whatever, do a little research. Go out and see, for one thing, before even investing into a rule set, whether it's $6 or even $2. Do a little research, see if the game has some web support. Usually games from Osprey Games have a lot of support out there. I mean, there's battle reports, there's blogs that people have set up. There was a game recently that I purchased, well, not so recently. It was about a year ago, and it's called Mayhem, and it's a mass battle system, and I found it online through some battle reports that an author had written in their blog, and the game sounded really, really interesting. And I went online, I checked it out, and they had information on the game, blah blah blah, and purchased it as a PDF, and it was very, very cheap. And I think this was through Wargamers Vault. That site, I have that in the description on my first video. I listed some websites there where you can get these games. So anyway, do your research a little bit, then you get your rule set, and then you're gonna think about, well, models. You're gonna need miniatures to play this game. Well, there's a lot of different ways you can go, and please remember, guys, that well, a lot of this is my opinion, first of all, according to my experience, but cheap, when I say cheap, it's a loose term, because what's cheap money-wise to me might not be to everyone else, right? People have different, everything is different in this sense, right? Your budget may be, or can be, or will be very different from mine, okay? So when I say that, keep in mind that it's a relative term. It's to the best of my experience what models I think would really work for these indie games. And remember, these are war games. These games, in a lot of cases, right, depending on the authors, can be a lot of fun. Okay, can be a lot of fun. Okay, so I've prepared this little presentation for you guys. And again, this was the stuff that I just showed. This is the Roman Cavalry by Italeri. I think I pronounced that better now, actually. But just to kind of give you guys a sense, remember, this is 1/72 scale, and they are pretty small, okay? And so this is the sprue. They're on sprues. And you are going to need tools to cut this. There's a specialized miniatures tool that you'll get, specialized clippers and stuff that you get to get these models off. And you got to do a little cleaning, a little filing, especially with these miniatures. These are pretty crisp and clean. And here are the Roman riders. You got separate shields, separate riders. You do have their weapons already attached. So, not a lot of customization that you can do unless you're a really advanced modeler and you know how to, like, cut the weapons at the wrist, and then add other weapons, etc. But that's I've done that, actually. And here are the horses. Okay, and so this is a 15mm World War II soldier, and so they give you see how scale. Okay, this one's a World War II British, and look at that. Look how small that metal model is. So okay, so that's Italeri, right? And The nice thing, the detail's pretty good, guys. Let me see if I can focus on that. Okay. Not bad detail. All right. These are very small soldiers. And again, this represents Roman cavalry, usually like auxilia, uh, but you can get Roman legionnaires, actual legionnaires. And this is more uh, probably the time of the Roman Republic, actually. So it's early Rome. And usually these games, since they are historically based, they're going to give you the years, right? First and second BC. Now, why is that important? Because for certain games that you play, you might want to hunt down. If it's fantasy, you don't really care too much. If it's something a little more historical, you might want to play like early ancients, mid ancients, medieval, periods later on, in history. So these kinds of things might be of interest then. Okay. Um, all right, so that's that. That's Italy. That's kind of your historical line. Now, these miniatures, these are Rune Wars, and these are big kits. This is an entire army for the game. Sorry if I... All right, gotta get that open. And this is kind of an unboxing now. I'm doing sort of a dual thing. So you get, the instructions for these models, which is great. I love when they have instructions. And so this gives you an idea of all the different parts, okay? Now, I find that these models go together quite well. They have like slots and holes, pegs and holes, and they fit together quite well. And some of these creatures are really, really cool. Okay, so good detail, good quality. And then these are all the stuff for the game, and I will be playing Rune Wars with Julie, so hopefully I'll be saving all this stuff. Uh, but these are the tiles I was talking about. Okay, this is like a ruined building, and you can use these instead of building terrain or buying terrain and get playing right away, right? And this is a very cost-effective way to do it. Remember, this box was like $22. This is from Fantasy Flight Games. Rune Wars those are the manufacturer, the company that sells it. And these are the models. Now, remember what I told you about being chunky. These are chunky, but good detail. And I love the way they fit together. They fit quite nicely, the pieces. And one of the nice things in this kit is not only the price, but the fact that they're very clean. Okay, they come with their own bases, so this is probably the base you're going to use. And it's great for the price, guys. I mean, look at all the minis you get here for that price, 23 something that I paid for it. I mean, just a lot of minis. I mean, you have a whole army here, okay? And so, of course, you're going to have a lot of painting, a lot of putting together, and that's all part of the hobby. Here's a little arm. I'm going to have to figure out where that goes to, and I believe it goes here. So, and I mean, these kits bring other stuff that you may not use. You might be able to find uses for these. These are the unit trays. You can even display the models on these and then take them off when you're ready to play. These trays do fit together because that's part of the whole system in the game. And it's a rank and file game, So, and then it brings cards, all these cards. If you're just using this for an indie game, and, this is stuff that it's going to be extra. So you kind of have to evaluate whether you want to have all that extra stuff. Maybe you can sell it to someone that plays Rune Wars, whatever. But this is a great kit. And this is the Elf Cavalry. And check that out. It's like a cat, right? The elf is riding like a cat. Cat wolf, hard to say. It has more of a cat, feline look to me. And I mean, this is a cool model. Again, a little bit chunky, a little bit big, a little bit blocky. Right, so keep that in mind. Some people really want their scales to be similar so they don't look as funny. Okay, and okay, so moving on. This is a World War II tank, a British Crusader tank, and this is all metallic. I got this at Noble Knight Games. I have a few of these. They have a very good collection 15 millimeter. This is a 15 millimeter scale, and of course, it's in scale with the human figure. That's what you compare it to. So this is the tank, and this is the figure. Now, these are tiny. With these figures, and here's my next point, you are going to have to work a little bit. I had to base this on a washer. That's what I use. I used a washer and a little piece of card to cover up that hole, and that's how I base my minis. Also, just on that note, one of the things that I want to really reiterate is that with these Italeri figures that I just showed you, you are going to be doing some work. Okay, you do have to base them. They don't come with their own like gaming bases, these kits, so you have to find stuff to base them on. And I use washers really. They're the cheapest, easiest to find. You can base them on metal washers, and it gives the figure a bit of a weight to it. So that's that. All right, here's another Rune Wars elf. Okay, again, he's a little bit on the big side. Elves are actually taller than humans in this game, so keep that in mind. I usually don't, it doesn't bother me too much, but it is sort of a chunky scale, okay? And siege equipment, this is from Italeri. Again, this is historical stuff. And if you're playing fantasy, you can certainly use these kinds of, siege equipment if the rules have, room for them. And I usually base these on these wooden bait craft things. These are just nicely cut wood, and I buy them in packs. They're very cheap at Walmart. And then I make like a little scene, okay? And these units generally don't move a lot on the tabletop, so it's okay. This is like a Roman, a mobile shield, mobile cover, and I use this in my 15 millimeter stuff. It's a cool kind of unit. I have a few of these, so they can kind of advance slowly, behind cover. It's very, very cool. All right, and then the last thing, one of the last things I want to show is this is a paper model. I made this myself. I didn't download this from any site. This is made with Microsoft Paint, and in the future, I may show how I did these. I don't make these anymore, but this is an excellent way to game. Okay, and this is one's actually three-dimensional. The little paper soldiers are going to be two-dimensional. And on that subject, this is a clay ship. Clay, wood, I sculpted this, made this fully handmade, no plans or nothing. I just kind of made up my own thing. And this is for those fictitious naval war games. Okay, and this is like some kind of steampunk setting. And this is a battleship. And then I have like these little squadrons of cruisers, destroyers that go with that set. And I'm making my own ships, basically. You will see projects like this in the future. They're going to come. That's what my page is all about, really. It's tabletop creations. And these are the skellies that I showed you earlier. Okay, these are big. These are robust. I chop these up. I use this as terrain. I can use these as the bones of giants. Or even a giant skeleton. I don't know. But I definitely use these to practice my painting before I go on to my models. So that's just something. Guys, like $2. I mean, a whole pack of skellies, different. This one had a lot of variety in it. So, they're not very detailed. I mean, they're toys, but, for practice and as surrogate models, who cares? And last thing, cardboard terrain from Drop Zone Commander. These kits are not exactly cheap, so these are not things that you would probably go out and buy. And again, this is 10 millimeter in scale. Drop Zone is 10 millimeter. So very, very small, right? These are cardboard buildings, but I use these in my indie games, because I have them already, okay? I'm not saying you have to go out and buy those kits. Remember, we are trying to stay on a budget. All right, folks, so that showed you enough stuff, blabbered enough, and I'm going to finish up this video now. Okay, so another miniatures line that I want to talk to you guys about in this whole freelance gaming topic is This is the box set, the Lannister box set, the Lannister halberds from Song of Ice and Fire. This is a game based on Game of Thrones by CMON, cool mini or not. And I'm not really into the game itself, or at least, not at the moment. But I saw these miniatures and I really love the detail on them. And so I decided to purchase this one box because this is a kind of miniature that I would definitely use in any game of Dragon Rampant or any of my freelance games, right? Now, a note: these miniatures here, these Game of Thrones miniatures, are a little bit on the big side. Okay, here's one of the Rune Wars humans. Now, consider the fact that he is crouched a little bit. Okay, even if he stands up straight, he's going to be still a little bit shorter than this guy. Okay, so these are pretty big miniatures. I've seen people use these in Frostgrave, not these particular, but miniatures in this line have actually proved to be very good for Frostgrave. And like I said, I don't really mind the fact that they are on the large size. Julie doesn't think so. She says, "Oh no, I would use them, no problem." They could be more robust guys, or just bigger guys that were recruited for this task, right? Of wielding halberds. I don't know. Point is that I would definitely use these in Dragon Rampant. I would look around for my scale, and try to fit these guys as best I could. But as I said, I'm not really scale doesn't bother me too much, as long as it's not like really apparent. Okay, these miniatures, I see that they're also pretty durable, and they're a hard plastic. So I'm going to be painting these and using these in a lot of different games. Okay, so that's definitely a possibility. They're a little on the pricey side, and by I say pricey side, pretty much standard for these games. I mean, $40. It's pretty much what you're gonna pay for a box of whatever, right? 40, even $50. If you're going 40K, well, you're gonna expect to pay even more for boxes of certain miniatures. So, I mean, it's about average in budget wise, right? I splurged a little bit with these, but I really do like the details, and I love that they're, halberds. I just love that. So we're going to be painting these and using them as well. So these are the Snake Man from Ghost Archipelago, and these I'm going to use in my Lizard Man army from Dragon Rampant, and also a wide variety of games, including Ghost Archipelago. So this is a very nice miniatures line, and these are hard plastic, and they are useful in many games. And there's the Snake Men all painted up and put together. So again, these will be very nice addition to my Lizard Man army. Okay, and this is my Warband workbench. Yes, this is where Julie and I set up our warbands for Frostgrave, for all these games, for our freelance games. And we keep these warbands assembled for a long time until, we kind of get tired and then switch them up. So we use these in a lot of our current games. And for example, this Frostgrave warband has miniatures from Hordes. I use Hordes a lot for Frostgrave because I have so many of them. I don't recommend you go out and just buy Hordes models. It can be a little bit on the pricey side, unless, of course, you really like them and you want to repurpose them for a game that you want to play, right? And this is a Mage Knight figure. I actually repainted that, and not too bad. And this is the Apprentice in this warband. This was going to be one of Julie's warbands. Here's another Hordes Shredder, and this is acting as the Warhound, right? It's the lovely thing about Frostgrave. You can do whatever you want. Here's a dwarf, from Reaper. This is also from Reaper. This is one of their metal miniatures. Really cool, a barbarian figure. This is a Lord of the Rings figure. Lord of the Rings. I have a bunch of these, and some of these I'm painting up as statues, and I'm going to use them as terrain. And some of these I'm going to, well, use in my warbands. So this is a figure that she's using in her Frostgrave warband. Okay, so there are manufacturers, different manufacturers for these figures in this warband. Now, this one is my Lizardman army for Dragon Rampant. And this really has miniatures from a lot of different places. And I love that. Here's a Hordes, you know, crocodile, the crocodile people from Hordes. Here is Age of Sigmar, one of the Lizardmen. I believe that's an old Warhammer Fantasy Lizardman. This is a Reaper mini from Reaper Warlords. I love their Lizardmen. Love the way they're made. And so that's that. And then Turtle Dude from Reaper Minis. This is from Reaper Bones. Okay, and so the idea is that in this army we have a reptilian theme. Here you see Hordes miniatures, D&D miniature right here. One of the Warcasters that I chose. And even Mage Knight. And this is a converted figure. So this Lizardman army has Lizardmen from all over. And people will say, well, so many different, you know, kinds, so many different scales and types of Lizardmen. And that's what I love about this army, is that I can say, well, this is a mishmash of tribes, of Lizardman tribes that have come together, right? They've made peace, they've come together, and now they pose a threat because they're actually united. And so there's all kinds of reptilian humanoids now, including war beasts, that are coming together and causing problems for the land. Or maybe they're the good guys, you know? Maybe it's the humans that's the bad guys. So again, in fantasy, you can just get as creative as you want. And that's what I love about these games. That is the whole point to this video, is the creativity that could be unleashed with these games, these freelance games. Okay, so, and that's what I'm going to call them, you know, freelance gaming. Just war game rule sets that have no miniatures, just the rule set, that you can use any miniatures line that you have or want. So keep that in mind, folks. Scale is a thing, and of course, if you are playing historicals and you're using Italeri, right, the prices are very good. I mean, for $18 you can get like quite a few miniatures. Okay, 25 miniatures, up to 30 miniatures in some kits, depending. Do your research on that. But, you know, with Italeri models, they're designed for dioramas mostly. So scales are a little bit different. I've used them in war games many years. And just remember, lastly, you are going to be doing some work if you're starting to get plastics. Okay, so Italeri, you're going to have to look for bases. I usually use washers. So you want to make sure your opponent knows and all this other stuff. Say, you know, I'm going to base mine on washers, and that affects measurements and everything else. So do your homework before you get into the hobby, and a lot of it is just gamble. All right, a lot of it's just experimentation. It's a great hobby. I love it. It's awesome. It has a lot of awesome people, and that's it, folks. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. Hopefully it's been helpful. Thank you very much, and we'll talk very soon.